All right, what is going on, everybody? I played the wrong intro again. I got a habit of that, naming the files close to the same thing, and then I wanted to play the one of you and I, our intro, but
I
unfortunately,
was digging the music. I was digging it.
yeah, the Blood Force band, man, they're just crushing it, crushing it.
Yeah, nice.
Definitely some good stuff coming out of the studio, making the most of me not being in there is the Blunt Force band can just get to work. They got all kinds of stuff. We were recording some disco today and some R&B. I'm pushing them to the limits, so it's been great. But good to see
Nice.
everybody, and great to see you, Lee. Always a pleasure to do videos with you. I definitely think we are like a peanut butter and jelly kind of thing. We just go well.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like it. Which
and
one am I? The peanut butter or the jelly?
I don't know. Yeah, unless you got a peanut allergy, then we'll have to be something else. But no, it's always fun doing lives, and I know I've kind of backed off a little bit doing some videos, just working on some other projects that have just kept pulling me away. As I mentioned when we were getting ready, I've been working on my book, and I'm about 15,000 words in, and on chapter 5, which is about 30% into it. So it's getting there, but enjoying it. But it's also very difficult.
Yeah.
And so some heavy stuff that I'm dealing with as I'm writing it. So it's almost like a kind of a cleansing, getting it out of me, hopefully, and stop having these crazy nightmares and some of that kind of stuff. So
Oh wow, that's deep. Deep stuff.
yeah, yeah, it's been pretty awesome just getting it on paper and seeing it and reading through it. Like, wow, this is really intense. So yeah, that's what I've been busy with, but also been goofing off making art pieces of Idaho 4 inspired things, which a lot of people have been getting a big kick out of it. And so why don't we? I'll show you guys some of this here I got going on. Um, This is our T Public merchandise page right here. And you can see that we've got some different designs. We got this one of the Moscow PD evidence vending machine. I thought you might like that one, Lee. He's pressing the sheath. And he's a little bald guy, too. I'm not sure what significance that has to play, but
There's a couple of bald guys in that case, aren't there? Yeah.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, it looks kind of like pain to me. But I had him
Yeah.
gleaming, the bald head gleaming, state of Idaho seal on the wall. I mean, it's legit.
That's
We got
awesome.
that. And by the way, when you're looking at these designs on T Public, see, they got this on sale for only $16. But you go down and scroll down, and these are all the different things they'll put that on.
Oh, that's
Like
cool.
you
Yeah.
can get a mug if you want for $14. That's pretty reasonable. But look, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, very cool.
shorts. I mean,
Some slim
you can go
trunks.
wild. Like you could really go. The hoodies are really good quality. I've got a Murder Metal Mayhem one I had them make, but that's just one design. And then we got some other ones. One that I haven't posted yet, but will be tomorrow. But this one here, meanwhile, in Idaho, they finally added a 9 to their phones. And sorority girl saying now I can call 911. So excited about that. And you could get these in whatever color you want. Like this is just a suggestion. This is asphalt, but they've got like dozens of colors. You could even tie dye it if you want.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it's really super cool. It really is up to 5X in size. So you can get them, all that. And then, of course, this one here, framed in Idaho, with Moscow City Hall above it. And that's a funny one. And then the one that started it all is my favorite here is some Deathany. and you can make of that what you think. But I think a lot of people that follow this channel know all about that. So
that one pushes some buttons and pushes the envelope a little.
oh
I gotta
yeah,
tell you, it's hilarious, but it pushes the
yeah.
envelope a little.
No, it's wild. So anyway, just having a little fun with some new merch, and it's nice having that website that'll let me upload unlimited stuff. So, what's been new with you, Lee? Anything you want to let the viewers know? Because your channel, let me share that here with everybody. Your channel, Devil's Advocates, is just slamming. I mean, you do some great content. And the F word is flying, though. I mean, you pull any punches with it, which I don't mind, but I'm sure there's some that don't like that.
I get crushed a little on it. I've got a lot of comments in my thing like, you would be a much bigger channel if you would stop saying the F word. And I really tried to get into you because I like what you have to say, but I can't handle that F bomb all the time. And I'm like, yeah. Maybe I have to drop one or two less than I do now. But then somebody else comes in right afterwards and is like, it's because you do so many F-bombs that I watch you. I'm like, of course.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to make them all happy. I know I, really PG-13 this up, but the podcast is the same way. We let it fly, no filter whatsoever, no warnings, no anything. It's just if you're watching or listening to a podcast by Murder Metal Mayhem and you have any issues with what we talk about, then you're just a fool. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, we're doing a live here today. Definitely a little different topic. We thought, it'd be something unique. I know you're the one that suggested this, Lee. What was your reason for bringing that
well,
up?
Honestly, I was getting ready for CrimeCon 2025, and they were featuring a preview of it. Let the Devil In was the name of it, and it was a brand new docuseries coming out. I had recognized the director, producer's name, Eli Roth, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And so I thought it would be a really great documentary. And because it was devil themed. And here's the thing, like I have to say, this is a difficult thing for me because honestly, my platform with the Devil's Advocates is just literally playing Devil's Advocates with the mainstream narrative. And I get people busting my nuts all the time of, well, I would really get into you, but I can't handle that whole devil thing. I'm not a devil worshiper and I just can't get into that devil worshiper. And I'm like, it's not even about devil worship. Like, do you not know what the term playing Devil's Advocates means? Right.
Exactly.
But you and I got together and we kind of played with it, and because I'm not afraid of it either, right? So we've got the whole Devil's Mayhem mashup, and I thought, well, why not go? Let's go balls deep on this. Let's go. There's a show called Let the Devil In. This seems like the kind of thing you and I need to cover. And it's true crime, and so so that's the reason why I suggested that maybe before I even saw it or knew anything about it, I thought maybe we should do something on it because it just seems to be in our wheelhouse. But
yeah, no, it was a great suggestion. I agree. It is in our wheelhouse, and I definitely am down with the whole topic. And we talked about, the docuseries and then going beyond it, talking about the Satanic Panic, which both of us are well aware of, especially me in the band world, doing metal in the 80s, was like having a bounty on your head, but which is just ridiculous. Especially like some of the bands they were upset about, like Motley Crue. I mean, really? I mean, what in the world would they be singing about to give anybody any angst that they're talking about Satan other than that shout at the devil song? But that's just ridiculous.
Dude,
and they're shouting at the devil, so they're not like on his side.
Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. You inadvertently lead me into a story. Oh my gosh. I have to tell this story if you're okay with it.
Oh yeah, dude. So, go for it, man.
That was my number one obsessed band, Motley Crue. I was obsessed with Motley Crue. I watched everything, every documentary that came out, every teen magazine that featured them on the cover. I would read it, anything that covered them. I was all over that band. And it's ironic because when that band came out with Shout at the Devil, because I didn't know about their previous album. That was their big album where they really went crazy, right?
Right.
And I was going to a church school, and I was heavy Christian, so I saw the advertisement for this new album, Shout at the Devil, and I see the big pentagram on their album cover, and as a Christian at the time, and I was a young boy, I said, oh my gosh, like they're just putting Satanism right. And again, this was in the middle of Satanic Panic, right? So everything was all about Satanism. I'm like, they're putting it right in your face. They're devil worshipers and shout at the devil. And it's funny that you mentioned shout at the devil, because that was like the lead singer's big counter to the whole, we're not Satanists. It's shout at the devil, not shout. Right. That was a line from Neil, So it was kind of funny because I was like, Vince Neil said that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But the irony is, I told myself while I was going to the Christian school, if I ever, because I kind of liked metal music, and I said, if I ever got to the point where I could accept a band like Motley Crue, blatant devil worshipers, I know I've gone too far. And then one day, I had never heard a thing about their music. I'm walking down the street, and some guys are playing basketball at a local park. And I hear this amazing beat, just badass beat. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you guys listening to? And you're like, Motley Crue, man, it's Shout at the Devil. And I went and I bought the album that day, and I thought, I'm toast. I just lost my soul.
Oh boy. Yeah, there's pentagrams all over it.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, that was the start of the downward slide for me. But
dude, I've been the same way. People digging on me in the early days of this, and I still get it every now and then, oh, why you do the 666 thing? I can't get behind it. It's like, it's a goof. It's not anything serious. Hopefully tonight you put that damn argument to bed. But wanted to call out Mark and Betty over in the UK, Lee, watching us. And
nice.
Or they said they got the original album, Shout at the Devil. So I bought it too when it came out. I was into it, but then I started getting into the heavier stuff. I've been seeing some people here. Short Circuit Princess is throwing up all sorts of love for some metal, but I saw her post Bathory, and Venom, who were bands I like for sure, and still listen to today. I was just listening to the first Bathory while I was cooking my breakfast the other morning. Perfect music to listen to while you're cooking breakfast, a song called Born for Burning. But wanted to call out some people real quick before I forget. Donna Lembo, our mod in chief there. Davey Dwight, Cub, Short Circuit Princess, Mark and Betty, Robbie Lynn, 1-1, Cub. Lots of people here today. Great to see everybody. We didn't know what we would get with Nicole Sears. We didn't know what we were going to get doing this, because it's something totally different. So sorry I didn't get to everybody, but there's a bunch of them and more stuff coming in. But yeah, so this should be an interesting discussion.
And I think I want to address, because you said, earlier, the 666 thing, and also with that is kind of a goof kind of a thing. And I do want to kind of address that for a minute, since we're doing this special show, is to make the record clear. I don't think Pete, and I know not I, in any way, shape, or form, are devil worshipers or anything like that. Here's the thing. I grew up studying this stuff. Like I know the Bible like the back of my hand. And for me, it doesn't mean the same thing that it used to mean anymore. And so when you get kind of like at a certain point, like with metal, like when you're in metal, right, Pete, like you get picked on like you're some kind of Satanist just because you're doing heavy metal. And right. At some point you kind of get irritated at all the stuff, and you kind of almost kind of adopt it as it's just a big joke to you, right? Because it just becomes, it's like, okay, yeah, once again, let's not talk about anything of substance. Let's just call me a devil worshiper because I play heavy metal or I listen. And it just becomes
so stupid.
It's a reactionary thing. It's not that you're obsessed with the devil. It's just that it's more like, I'm not taking this serious. I wish you weren't taking it so serious, but,
no. And as a teenager, we'll talk about this as this rolls out today, or tonight, as a teenager, that kind of music, metal at that time, especially, people were freaking out. Half the kids that probably were listening to it just to get a rise out of their parents or their teachers or both.
Well, that's just it. It's a rebellion thing, yeah.
I mean, there's not very many. I mean, I'm 58. I'm sure there's not that many guys that, I grew up with still jamming the same stuff we did back in the day. I'm playing stuff I was playing in the 80s. That's the stuff that I like. But the more underground music, not the mainstream stuff. So it's just particular likes, but it doesn't stay with everybody for life, like some of us. So when there are people like my age that are still that big into it, it's kind of cool to trade stories of what got you into it, and people you met along the way, and some really cool camaraderies. Met a lot of good people at these concerts doing this stuff, and did so much charity work, St. Jude stuff. So to say that that I am even in the slightest bit into devil worshiping and stuff like that is just totally ridiculous and unfounded.
Having said that, by the way, I thought it was funny. Eli Roth, to go back to the show that we were going to talk about and we'll talk about throughout the night. And I don't know if we have a formal script, but wasn't it funny having Eli Roth talk about all these people blaming Satanism on this murder or whatever, and then Eli showed clips of himself as a kid, like chainsawing up a baby doll.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and making morbid movies of his friends all bloody and shaking against the fence. And you're like, holy crap. Like Eli Roth had some darkness in him as a little kid. But again, it wasn't taken in the same vein as I think people saw it back then.
Dude, I've been writing since I was in 4th grade. I've always written horror and suspense. I went back, I found a box when I was moving stuff around of my old writing, like in junior high, like journals I kept for English and all this. And I read and published it. It's in my latest book, Creation of Chaos 4. If you want to buy one, go on Amazon or get it from me. You get a poster and I sign it and stuff. But there's a story in there called The Executioner, and I wanted to take a story I wrote back then and not touch it, just put it in there just as is,
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of neat to see how my writing has grown so much for all those years. But this is, I'm not even exaggerating, this is worse than Saw, worse than that. So and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but with the West Memphis 3 and Damien Eccles, and they talked about all that writing he had and these lyrics and stuff. And that time, I was a little bit ahead of him by a few years, but they could have locked my ass up real quick with some of the stuff I was writing. But you're right. It wasn't looked at the same way. I used to make little collections of the stories and draw like a cover, and I couldn't draw worth a crap, but I tried. And I made like a construction paper cover with like 4 or 5 stories in it. And I used to pass them around in class.
Yeah.
So like teachers saw this stuff. It's not like I was hiding it from them. But like you said, it just was a totally different environment, totally different time, obviously. But I don't know if anybody likes the shirt I wore tonight just for this.
That's awesome. I love that.
So yeah, I've always said right when I got the amputation, it was just from kicking so much ass. And then when I saw this shirt, I was like, oh no way, I gotta get that shirt. But yeah, well, so what do you think about Let the Devil In? So it's on MGM Plus. That's where I saw it. Had a lot of trouble with it. It kept timing out and kicking me out, and I only got through the first 2 episodes because I was having so much trouble with it. But I, it was interesting for sure. But what was
so you didn't finish the last episode?
No, I couldn't. It wouldn't let me see it for some reason.
That sucks. Well, yeah. I have to say, to be fair, and again, I didn't know what to expect with the show going in, but I was disappointed. I was disappointed in the series.
Me too.
They really stretched things on. They repeated things a bunch of times. It's like, hey, how do we turn this into 3 series? Well, we'll have the same person say the same thing like 12 times. And I'm like,
right.
it just felt like they didn't really have a story, and it was more about the polish and Eli, and it said like Eli wanted to show off his speaking skills more than anything. It was just, it didn't feel like a really good documentary, to be fair.
No, I agree with you 666%. I was I definitely was let down. I was expecting something more intense, like the original 1948 or 49 Robbie Mannheim exorcism, which happened over there near Washington D.C., which was the inspiration for The Exorcist. William Peter Blatty talks about seeing this article in the newspaper, and it was fascinating because they took the kid to multiple priests and then ended up sending him to St. Louis, and this really weird stories about how that went down and what happened at the hospital before and after. And it's really intense, but we did the whole thing on Murder Metal Mayhem. We did an entire podcast about it. If you're interested in that, but that story itself would have been 1,000 times more interesting than what we saw, which, like you said, was not much there. They could have easily done it in one episode, but you know what killed me? And I almost wanted to laugh, and I thought, this guy can't be serious, but I don't remember what his significance was, because anytime I was watching it, I didn't see his name flash up of, who he was and what his deal was. But he kept talking about that contract that the kid made up with the devil.
Yeah.
And he was making this out like it was like an official contract. Like, this kid, this 14-year-old kid dreams up this pact with the devil. I mean, it was just really childish and silly, and
it was
talking about it like it was like etched in stone, and he signed it in his blood, like some real dramatic type thing. And it was like, dude, some 14-year-old kid wrote this. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think the guy you're talking about was like a pastor of a church kind of thing, and he was, and it was one of those typical things where he's telling you like he knows all things. When you do this, you've just made a deal, and you've done this, and I'm like, really, like you're just making up your own rules. And now, like, when you do this is for life. They're gonna answer. They're gonna, I was like, anyways, I found that guy pretty off-putting, but then
and
again,
they kept going to him, like you said, and every time he was on there, he just kept saying the same thing,
right? Because they tried to make it into somebody, by the way, on the chat said they wanted to ask a question, and Mark and Betty, I think it was saying, I want to ask a question, and it was when we were talking about something else. I was going to see if they wanted to throw that question in, but while they're putting that question up on the screen, I found that guy a little odd as well, and they kept coming, like you said, they kept coming back to the same people saying the same thing over and over again, as if they were trying to fill time for three. And it was, well filmed, I guess, but a lot of it was actors. A lot of actors reenacting things, and it didn't really feel like a documentary as much as it just felt like a show. While we're waiting for that person, I did want to say the one thing that did kind of catch me is, and I wasn't sure. The one part that was, and you focused on it as well. They made it sound like the kid supposedly slashed both of his wrists to the bone and his own throat all the way so deep that his head tilted back and you can see down his windpipe. I hate to be super graphic, but you did give a warning at the beginning that it would be super graphic. But I'm thinking to myself, that's not even possible. Like if you've cut your wrist, you can't manipulate the knife anymore. Now, the only thing I can think of is one part in the episode, and I'm listening to details. Oh, one more thing I wanted to point out about it too. But anyways, is that he cut one wrist. So if he only cut one wrist, maybe he had a good hand. Maybe. Later on, they said clearly he cut both wrists to the bone. So how do you cut both your wrists to the bone and your own throat to the bone? You can't physically have done that.
Right.
So that was the only thing that left. But again, you know what the show didn't do? It didn't explain that at all. It just kind of left it as, well, that's weird, suicide, but could he have done it? And then into the show. It's like, okay.
Yeah, to me, that's like the elephant in the room is how the hell does he do that? It doesn't make any sense.
I was annoyed about one other thing. They kept showing a recreation of the mother that had been stabbed in the basement. And half the time they'd show her with her right hand face down or palm down in blood, and then half the time the same right hand to be right side up. And I'm like, you can't even get your own image of the recreation right enough to be realistic. Like, which one was it? Was she laying on her back or was she laying on her face?
Right.
It was like the details of that case didn't really matter. It was a story. They wanted to tell a story, and the details really didn't matter to them.
Right. No, I agree. So it starts out with the mom, like you said, stabbed in the basement multiple times, right? I know that it was pretty gruesome, and then hit her on the head with a weight, and said that hit her so hard on the side of the head that her eyes, or at least one, was forced out of her head, which is gruesome.
Right.
Again, you're watching Murder, Metal, Mayhem, and Devil's Advocate, so deal with it. All right,
take it for what it is.
But yeah, so really, really gruesome. And then he sets up like this circle with like books, because he checked out like 2 or 3 books, I'm assuming, from the library. That's what another thing. It's like the guy was acting weird, they said, for a couple of weeks. So he's going through this weird phase where he's dabbling in the occult and reading about it. And then they're making it out like he's like Anton LaVey, like running the Church of Satan at his house in New Jersey. And it's like, he checked out a few books. I mean, this is a far cry from some sort of devotee to Satan. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense,
Yeah. And there were some crazy allegations in this show, and it was a lot of people just talking. It was a lot of older people talking about memories of something that happened way back in the day.
Right.
And then you have to also wonder how much their memory is still good about what happened. And it was during the Satanic Panic era, when everything was escalated as you're possessed by the devil, and the teenagers are turning their lives over to Satan and killing everybody. And, so.
Yeah. So that, that's definitely adds a wrinkle to this, which is where we're going to go next. But anything else about the special? I mean, so the mom is killed. He sets fire to these books and newspapers in hopes that he was going to kill his little brother and his dad, right? Who were in the house sleeping.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
They end up getting out of there, thankfully, but he tried, and then and then he went and did what he did. However he did that, or somebody did that to him, one of the two. I mean, I'm leaning towards someone else did that to him. I mean, that's really weird. Like maybe he had a partner or something.
That's the thing. That's the thing. They really dropped the ball on what could have been a really interesting story.
Right.
And they did not go down. The dad was very weird, and his immediately calling out his son. My son did all this. My son's a murderer or whatever, before he really had enough evidence to even suggest that. So the dad should have been suspicious in the first place. If I were to put my modern true crime hat on, I would say the dad committed the murder and even killed his own son, and then blamed it on the son being satanic. But they didn't follow that lead at all.
Oh,
they didn't
that's interesting.
They mentioned it was a little odd that the father was immediately incriminating his own son, but then they immediately dropped that and moved on to other things. Like, it wasn't that big of it was like, oh, that was kind of weird. Like, why is he implicating his own son so quickly? It's like they just wanted to tell a story, and they didn't really care about getting it right. It was just weird. But
they didn't want to put the work in, because I mean, they could have given out 3 or 4 really good episodes with lots of information had they done it like that, as compared to just phoning it in. Maybe they went to the same conferences as the Moscow Police Department. Maybe they all trained together, and had to respond. And we're talking about the Satanic Panic. So this starts in 1980.
Yeah.
With a book that was called, where is it? Oh, Michelle Remembers in 1980. And that's where this memory therapy was investigated. And remember, there was like a couple of daycares, like big daycares, that got busted.
That was a huge thing back in the 80s. Was the daycares that were running children through rituals, satanic rituals, and basements with that. Entire families were rounded up. Yeah,
really, really bad. But then they come to find out a lot of that therapy was bogus, and these were like false memories. So a
Yeah.
lot of these people were exonerated, but I mean, gosh, what an ordeal to go through. Obviously never going to be the same again after something like that, but it was a huge thing. And like I said, I started playing metal in 84. That's when I bought my first bass and started a band. And, was doing more like mainstream type metal at that time. And then as the 80s wore on, I started getting into like Venom and Slayer and Celtic Frost and a lot of that old school stuff, Metallica, and been to tons of the early concerts, saw Cliff Burton live twice and close enough I could have touched him. I mean, it was just amazing to see it all. But what a time to be young and experience that, because it was, never been the same since, I think. But
Yeah.
definitely a magical time. But the thing is that every damn news station was running story after story after story about backwards messages, and you had like Judas Priest getting sued for Better Than
Yeah.
You, Better By Me, and that there was some sort of, backwards or some sort of message in that. And then you had Ozzy, of course, with, I'm not going to say the word solution, begins
Yeah.
with S.
Yeah.
It's an anti song about that. It's not pro that, it's anti that. So it's so dumb, they just didn't read the words and apparently, didn't understand what it was about.
It's funny, by the way, before you go too far on it, and I may have mentioned this before when we first met early on, but back again, I was big into a Christian school at the time. I actually gave, as an interesting aside, I actually gave a presentation to our church of about 300 people, it seemed, I think it was, about backmasking and about all the, and I played pieces of music backwards and broke it down for them, what the lyrics were saying backwards. And I was like, it's kind of funny because I look back at it now. I'm like, I was into all of that. I was, oh yeah, it's all Satanism. And here they're going to play this song back for you, and you're going to hear this. And I did all of that when I was that age.
Yeah, the backwards messages were fun if you had a turntable that you could power on and it didn't move.
Yeah.
So you could spin it backwards and you'd be
Right.
able to hear it. That
Yeah.
was the key. So for any young people, like a record player, what the hell are they talking about? Yeah, it's
I know.
way back in the day.
It's like this. It's like you can't even say it's like a CD because CDs are outdated as well. It's like a round plate, with grooves in it.
Like a stone disc,
We chiseled in the music.
Took a long time, man. But no, as somebody that's been recording since the 80s myself, multiple analog, digital, you name it, been there, done that, done it myself, have been in studios with other people doing it, but I am not aware of any way possible there would be to put a backwards message in music and have it sound right played forward.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do that. I am not aware of that even being possible. So that whole backwards message thing is so dumb. It's just every now and then you're going to catch a little phrase, and you know how it is when you're told, "Oh, this is where he says I'll bury Paul" or whatever, the Beatles,
right.
and then you hear it. It's just like this tree from where I grew up. There's this big tree. It's gone now, but was this huge tree on this winding country road, and they called it the Jesus tree because everybody on Friday and Saturday nights, a lot of people were going up there and partying up at this tree, and they would just hang out, and everybody said you could see it look like Jesus on the cross if you got back far enough. Well, you know how that is. If you're looking for it, you're looking at a tree, so not too hard to pick up, uh, something that would resemble a cross, and so it was just dumb. And then everybody said, oh, if you deface the tree in any way, then something bad happens to you. And then there was this rumor that this couple stole something from the tree. Like there was these gargoyles, these concrete gargoyles there, and there was one was gone, and supposedly somebody took it and then like crashed and perished in the crash, and a lot of
Yeah,
high school legend type crap. But if you're
I had a
looking
ton of
for
those.
it, you're going to see it. And it's the same way with a lot of this satanic panic stuff. If you're obsessed with that and bound determined to seek out any possible reference to anything whatsoever dark, nowadays there's legit music that is satanic, but that's a very niche kind of thing for metalheads that are into that kind of thing. I'm not,
Right. And
but
here's the
there's a
thing,
lot of
like,
people that are. It's a thing.
here's the thing too, like, you have to think, I don't know what your feelings, this is maybe a gray area for me to ask you this, being that you're into metals with that, but some of those bands in that era played upon that for selling albums,
Of
right?
course.
It wasn't that they believed that or they sold their soul to the devil to become famous, which was, of course, the famous story that was being put around everywhere at public. But it was more like, hey, if we do this, we're going to sell an X number of extra records to a certain people who are obsessed about that and want to be rebellious against their parents, and they're going to buy our albums more. And so they would cater to it as a marketing thing. But then it became, proof. Well, Kiss is Knights in Satan's Service, and and Ozzy
Right.
Osbourne's a devil worshiper biting heads off of bats because he's doing a ritual on stage, and all these things come out, and
Yeah.
and you have to wonder how much of it's just marketing.
Right.
Even to
Oh,
this day, a
totally,
lot of
dude.
it's marketing.
Without a doubt. I mean, you saw bands that went from glam metal to playing
Yeah.
on the Satan thing. So yeah, it was very, very, it was fashion at the time. Here's my mom in the chat. She said, "What does my T-shirt say?" No, I mentioned it, but just in case, Mom, there it is. I kicked so much ass, I lost a leg. And, there you go. Got this from T Public, by the way. T Public. I'm telling you, it's good.
Stryper. Somebody just mentioned Stryper in the chat. Do you remember anything about Stryper?
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember thinking it was really silly.
No, so here's what's awesome. Like I said, I was in church school, right? And this was my crossover band for my parents.
Oh
No, no,
yeah,
no, look, they're preaching God's word in the devil's backyard.
yeah.
That was like their tagline. We're preaching the God's word in the devil's backyard. Stryper, the Yellow and Black Attack. I
Oh
loved
yeah.
Stryper for a while. I got into some of those crossover bands. It was hilarious.
When I was in Low 12, we played with down in Columbia, Missouri. We played a show with a Christian death metal band. I'd never run into this before. These guys showed up in like corpse paint and like brutal, like playing some really, really gnarly, death metal. Old school was great. And then we went and took pictures, after the show together, group shot. And somebody had their middle finger up and the guy got all upset. And I'm like thinking like he was goofing around, and he said, that we're a Christian band. And I'm thinking like, well, you're
Really?
the wrong genre of music to get all like up. I mean, if you're going to be like that, that's fine. But to be upset about a middle finger, like the guy, had a baby's head on a stake, it's just ridiculous, totally ridiculous. So
It was a weird time to live through.
yeah, it is. And, it was an interesting time, but the Satanic Panic was real. And when this happened, this case in New Jersey that this docuseries is about, it happened in 1989. So right in the wheelhouse.
Right in the wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just this, they showed like town hall meetings where everybody's getting all fired up, and they got experts to come in and talk about the devil, and you getting
Yep.
people all whipped up, and then they go home and they start going through their kids' albums, and they're finding these albums in there, and then now they're freaking out, and
Yeah.
it's the way it was. And so you're right, when I started doing the podcast back in 2018, I thought, we were going to kind of give our own middle finger up to the ones that tried to hold us back in the day, and kind of making fun of the 666 thing like it's a joke, even though I know it pushes some buttons, and it's not meant to be, as we've been saying repeatedly, though. It's not meant to be anything more than just kind of a goof. And I'll be honest, I was trying to think of videos that would be short, and I'm like, how many minutes is in 666 seconds? And of course, everybody that watches me knows 11 minutes and 6 seconds. But
Yeah.
I thought that's perfect. That's a perfect length of a video, around 10 minutes. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started doing my 666 seconds of murder. But in the beginning, I did have a lot of people throwing Bible verses at me and everything else. And I'm like, it's not that, it's not about that. It's the same with my writing. I mean, I grew up Catholic. I didn't really follow it, like to the letter. And certainly as I got older, I drifted away from it. But as a little kid, getting first communion and all that. So you grow up with this innate fear of evil and the devil and hell and all this. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is people that are into that sort of thing. I think that's where their earliest memory of the devil or any such thing is from hearing it in church, and especially Catholics or anybody, Lee, I know you know a lot about the Bible, but I mean, my gosh, there's so much of it, if that's what you're looking for,
Yeah.
there's a lot of it in there, so, and I write, stories about priests and things like that. And it seemed to gravitate to it because of, like I said, there's some sort of primal fear, I think, that I have of that whole thing that interests me, even though I kind of shrug it off as I don't know what to believe, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because I can't remember what influenced me, but I also recall, is this around the same time? I think Stephen King was getting to be really big around that same time, and so I was getting into horror books. Like I was more into Stephen King novels during that time, and and that got me in trouble in the church school as well, kind of thing. But so I don't know, like was 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 the Stephen King, Dean Koontz era of books during that time also a product of that time? Because horror books have been around for forever, but it just seemed to
Oh
also
yeah, and then you had bands like Anthrax recorded multiple songs from Stephen King books.
yeah.
They wrote a song about the stand called, what's the brain necrotizing among the living.
Yeah.
I would have had to take my metal card and throw it away if I could. But no, I mean, Anthrax probably wrote 3 or 4 songs. They have a song called "Misery Loves Company" about misery.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of crossover bands writing songs about the
Horror
books
film,
that they
horror
like to
book. Yeah.
read. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, is a lot of people thought, heavy metal was a joke and, like I said, all satanic. Meanwhile, a lot of these guys are very well read. I mean, the singer of Iron Maiden's got a degree in history, and
Yeah.
most of their songs revolve around historic events.
Yeah.
The one song they got dinged about was Number of the Beast, and that was about a nightmare he had. And
Yeah.
that's it. Like Dante's Inferno, it's so stupid, that these guys are far from dumb. I mean, I used to write stories, like wrote stories within the music, and the lyrics told the story. I did that a couple of times. That takes a lot of work, to be able to make that all come together like that. And just never got the credit for it because, like I said, they just thought it was stupid, But
Yeah.
so yeah, so you get this Satanic Panic, a legitimate thing, and it's influencing a lot of the media, and kids are catching hell from their parents about it, and it was just a stupid, blown up thing that really had very little based in reality. And the case I go to all the time, Lee, whenever this is discussed, is the West Memphis 3. I mean, I'm very knowledgeable about that case, but this was the worst. I mean, you want to talk about a travesty of justice. I mean, what they did to those guys, I mean, you're talking about 1993 in West Memphis, Arkansas. You had 3 kids that were poor, came from the wrong side of the track, so to speak. Damian Eccles, he was the oldest of the group and kind of the leader. and then Jason Baldwin and Jesse Miskelly. They were convicted, all three, of the murder of the 3 8-year-old boys that were found naked and hogtied in this ditch with some standing water in it. And there was zero evidence. I mean, zero.
Yeah.
No DNA, no footprints, no fingerprints, no eyewitness, nothing, absolutely nothing, other than Damien liked to write scary stories and weird heavy metal like lyrics. And I'm sitting here watching this the first time, and I'm like, oh my God, that could have been me, and the stuff I was writing, like I said.
Yeah.
And, of course, this little town is just going crazy with all this going on, understandably so. It's horrific. And there were some knife marks on the body, according to the coroner. And if you watch any of the documentaries about this, you find out in Arkansas, you don't have to have any sort of medical training at all to be the coroner.
There's places like that. Yeah.
Kind of ridiculous,
Yeah.
But he said in the original trial that these were knife marks and that was indicative of a satanic ritual. And then they had this cop on there, which is so absurd. He's supposed to be like an expert on the topic. The guy went to a seminar about it. That
was
his
expert
training.
Yeah.
He went to a seminar, ate a couple of donuts, got the free lunch and a name tag, and there he is, the satanic expert, getting up on the stand trying to convince these jurors that these little marks were from knife wounds and that was indicative of a satanic ritual. And, people were so whipped up at this crap that they believed it,
Yeah.
And sitting here watching these documentaries and you're just like, how in the world could you be hearing this and think that that makes any goddamn sense, And it was just crazy. And then, they're like the perfect patsies, And Damien ends up getting the death penalty. And then the other two got heavy sentences. And Damien ends up, almost going blind on death row for 20-something years because the lighting was so bad. And he was on the verge of going blind. And the three of them were able to get what they call an Alford plea, which is bullshit, but they get out of it, but they're still technically guilty, which is ridiculous. And it's just so the state could save face and probably not get their asses sued. And so you hear the Alford plea a lot when you follow true crime. That's what that is. And so, and then the filmmaker, the guy that did Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, he came out with a documentary called West of Memphis that's all about this. Very, very good. I recommend it highly. You can get it on YouTube. I think you have to pay a couple of bucks for it. More than worth it. More than worth it if you're interested. It's the best one by far, but it shows all the different celebrities that helped get them out and politicians and everybody that wrote letters and spoke and this and that, and the struggle it took for them to finally get out of there, but they had to take that Alford plea. So, but the one kid didn't want to do it because he wanted to be exonerated. But in an effort to save Damien's eyesight, he went ahead and went along with it. That was Jason Baldwin. And so, it's an iconic case, but it was right in that Satanic Panic era. And you had people just, going.
And over the years, I mean, I don't have the numbers and the names, but over the years, there was a number of those daycare satanic ritual panic convictions that were overturned later after people spent time in jail being labeled as pedophiles and child molesters and satanic people. There was a number of convictions that were overturned as didn't happen, but your life's already ruined once you've been labeled certain things, and
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That was a different time. It was a different time. What's funny as an aside, I was thinking that I didn't know where to fit it in, but when I was going to church school. So I don't know if it was something that was in public schools at all, but there was a book. It was a famous book. I think it was not just in church circles. It was called The Satan Seller. And it was a guy that claimed to be a satanic high priest that had gotten out of the church and somehow miraculously got away with his life, because you sign your life away on this book. You sign your name in blood, and if you ever leave the church, it turns green. He had all these great fanciful stories. But I think it was funny because they kind of told it to all his church kids as trying to scare us out of. And here's the irony: this is going to be horrible. To scare us out of satanic church, they were really preaching this guy's book, a former high priest. And I remember as a young man being told, young boy, right? Hey, look, I'm not a good looking guy, but when I joined the church, they threw women at me left and right. I was constantly swimming in women, and they would bring women over to my house. And I'm like, well, shit, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Like, I'm like, are you trying to sell this to it? Young teenage boys are saying, oh yeah, you don't even have to be good looking. They'll just bring women, and women will just do anything you want. It's crazy. It was a great life. I could, but you know what? I got out of it. That was just a trap. And I'm like, there's a lot of teenage boys in there going, well, sign my shit up for that.
That's what Manson did. He had those girls out there luring guys in, and we've done stories on the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast about cults that do that. They send the girls out to lure the young men back to the compound to be brainwashed and become part of the cult. It's sick. It really is. Snoopy Red had a comment here. West Memphis 3 still bothers me. All were convicted on their youthful, rebellious attitudes, which anyone growing up then could totally relate. Yeah, I agree. Very good observation there, Snoopy Red. Very good. I'm just kind of scanning through to see if anybody's got any comments about this. It looks like there's quite a bit of chat going on here. So if
I notice people are leaving the room. They're like, I love you guys, but I can't handle all this satanic stuff. Like, no matter how many times we've said at the beginning, we're not into Satanism. We're not doing that. People are leaving the show because I can't handle your satanic stuff. I'm like, we're not promoting Satanism. We're talking about an era, but that's okay. It's all good. Hopefully they'll, when the show is over, they'll come back and watch something else that's not related to this. That was my biggest fear talking about this, is all the people are going to be like, oh my God, they're Satanists and they're talking about Satan.
Yeah, here's that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, of course. So it's all good, but I'm not sure what this one. Oh, wait a second. No. West Memphis 3 and Central Park 5, all guilty. I beg to differ. I don't know nearly as much about the Central Park 5 as I do the West Memphis 3, but there's no way those guys are guilty. They found a hair in one of the knots when they reinvestigated the West Memphis 3, and they did DNA on it, and it was a match to the stepfather of one of the boys that was murdered. So he was the one that did it. And then apparently there was a knife that one of the boys always kept on him. It was like real special to him. And the mother of the boy years later found in a drawer of the dresser that her husband had, the stepfather, and found the knife in his drawer. And so she always thought, like, oh my gosh, he really did do it, because there's no way that I think it was Stevie Branch, he would have ever given up that knife. So that's messed up. That really is. So yeah, so it is an interesting time, and again, we thought doing this topic would be cool.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the documentary wasn't better, because I thought we would have some real good talking points to come out of it, and even though you didn't watch the last episode, you didn't miss much. It just really was. I don't even know what they were wanting to tell a story, and they didn't even want to really get it right, and it was just sensationalism, and it wasn't. Yeah. They had Geraldo Rivera on there. That was another thing from the Satanic Panic area. Geraldo Rivera was big into, there's over 1 million kids that are practicing Satanism in their parents' basements, and it's happening all around America. And he told people about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it wasn't all that good of a documentary, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
And in fact, I
agree.
wouldn't even call it a documentary, would you? I wouldn't even know what I'd call it a
No, I
documentary.
wouldn't either. Dramatized documentary at
Yeah.
best. But no, I wasn't really impressed either, and kind of a letdown. Considering all the damn hoops I had to jump through to watch the damn thing, I didn't have MGM and did
And
the
now I
free.
feel bad dragging you into it. Oh my gosh, by the way, oh my gosh, I just realized. When I'm with Birdie, they'll pick on me for wearing lipstick, and I'm drinking fruit punch all night long, and my lips are
Oh
turning
no!
red. So once again, I've got lipstick on a show. Anyway, I got to not drink fruit punch when I'm on a camera.
That's funny. Funny, but yeah, it was an interesting time, and it was something that we thought you guys would enjoy to talk about something different. To get off that Idaho 4 bandwagon. There is still stuff to talk about with the Idaho 4 for sure, but just wanting to branch out. I'm sure you guys can understand. I mean, we only want to talk about the stuff that interests us and you, and it's hard to kind of find a compromise when I do a video on anything other than Idaho 4 and it gets no views.
Right.
Do an Idaho 4 video and it's got 20,000 views in 2 days.
Right.
It's
Right.
just like, wow. And again, I'm not doing it for the financial part of it whatsoever. Always joke around. People think we make like all this money, tons of
Yeah.
money at our level, but the last live I did, I think I made $5.47
Yeah.
revenue. That's it. So
Yeah. You're not going to make a living like that.
no, you're not. And if anybody thinks we're doing this for any other reason than just we truly enjoy it, then you're sadly mistaken, because that's definitely the case here. But anything you wanted to say before we part ways? Anything you got coming up, Lee? Any exciting for the weekend or anything you
Yeah,
work?
I don't know that it's going to entirely excite your audience, but I'll take the moment to say that, I'm still having conversations with Attorney John Ray, in the Long Island serial killer case. I'm going out to New York in few weeks here, and I'm going to meet with John Ray when I'm in New York. So that's very cool.
Awesome.
I've got some connections that are in New York that might be showing me some. I might be getting some inside or behind the scenes look into the case, which is exciting. I won't say much more about that. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with Josh Zeman, who did the special on a 5-part series on Lisk that he and I are working out something for later on in the year, because he's out of the country. And then the big news coming up this week is on tomorrow. Ali Benevento, she's a criminal defense attorney of over 15 years. She's been super busy, but she and I first started talking about Luigi Mangione, and then kind of the Luigi story kind of dried up, and then the Kohberger case took over as far as the dominant story. And she was just starting to get into Kohberger, got invited on Court TV, oddly enough, a couple times to talk about the Kohberger case. And now Luigi just broke again, and Allie's coming on my show tomorrow night. Ali Benevento is going to take some time out. She have her really busy schedule because she's on Court TV all the time now. We're going to talk to Luigi Mangione in the latest hearing that happened in that case. And of course, Charlie Kirk is taking over a lot of things, and I've got a massive amount of thoughts about the Charlie Kirk situation. So I got my hands in about 5 different cases right now, and I'm trying to sort it all out. I'm super busy lately.
Well, that's good. I mean, you're definitely kicking butt over there. So anybody that's watching that's not familiar with Lee's work over there at his Devil's Advocates channel, then go check it out and subscribe to him. And if you're watching this on his channel and you're not a subscriber of mine, then go to Murder Metal Mayhem and do that. I'm almost at 15,000. I'm really close. So I need a surge to get me over the finish line. So it's been tough lately, squeezing them out one at a time.
Yeah. I'm also my little goal, because I did a little chat with GPT about what constitutes a small channel, a medium channel, and a large channel, and they said that a small channel is anything under 10,000. So I'm still waiting to become not a little boy anymore. So until I hit the 10,000 mark, I'm a small channel, and I keep telling people I'm just a little small channel. But I think from a psychological perspective, when I hit 10K, and I'm over 7 now, when I hit 10K, I'll no longer refer to myself as a small channel. I'll be like, I'm a mid-sized channel. So I'm looking for
so
that.
That's mid-size. So where I would be then mid-size. Okay.
You're mid-size. Yeah, and 100,000 is the break where they say you're a large channel. So you got a long. Unfortunately, there's a big break between you're a mid-sized channel, but until you get to 100K, you're not a large channel.
That'll be interesting. Well, I want to give away a couple stickers here. If anybody wants some Murder Metal Mayhem stickers, you could put this on your car window when you drop your kids off at school and scare everybody and wonder why you have this sticker on your car. But you can put it wherever you want to, your laptop or your forehead. I mean, whatever strikes your fancy. But I'm going to give 3 of these away. And the answer to the question is, I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer the question. And then I will stop the vote or the contest. I will add up the number, use a random number generator, and I'll pick 3 people. Got to be in the U.S. though. Okay. So here's the question. It's a tough one. If you need to use a calculator or an abacus or whatever necessary, you can do it. But in the West Memphis 3 case, how many perpetrators ended up going to prison? In the West Memphis 3 case, how many people ended up going to prison over that? So good luck. Again, use whatever you need. It's an open book test. But
carry the 1 and
carry the 1 and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see here. We'll give them a minute, but yeah, this was fun. Definitely enjoy doing these with you, and I'm really excited to see this Long Island serial killer stuff that you're working on. So
yeah. By the way, if you want to, along that lines, I saw a documentary. I'm going to side tangent while you're doing this test. I saw a documentary called Outcry. I met one of the guys that's featured in this documentary called Outcry. It's a 5-part series about a guy that was accused of molesting a young boy. I highly, highly, highly recommend Outcry. It was filmed in 2020, I think. It is so good because for me, it hits everything the Devil's Advocates is about, which is mainstream media telling you what happened in the case before the person ever steps foot in the trial, trying him in the court of public opinion, a law enforcement department that is narrow-sighted and didn't want to look at anything except for the person who's been accused and didn't want to look into any other alternative suspects, a broken court system that just isn't set up to do this, and it was corrupt. That show has everything my show is about. Outcry is a great show, and I might have Clint Harper. He's featured in the first couple episodes. He was the high school football coach of the kid that was accused. I'm going to have him on my show coming up here in a bit.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. So we're past the minute mark. Let's see how many we got. 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
I have to answer Cub. Cub's been asking who was. I got to answer Cub when you get done with this poll. I'll answer Cub.
Oh, sure. All right, so I'm going to use this random number generator and keep your eyes open. All right, Lisa Wilson, you win a sticker. So email me, Lisa, at, I think that's how you pronounce that, at Pete@murdermetalmayhem.com, and in the subject line, put something like I want a sticker, and I'll take care of you. So thank you very much. Let's see, who else we got here? Cheryl Fitzgerald. Excellent. I see her in the chat a lot. So Cheryl, you win a sticker. Same thing. Email me, Pete@murdermetalmayhem.com, and I'll get you one. Just give me your snail mail. And then the third and last one goes to 1-1. And I'm seeing all the 3s, but I get the
you only get one, not
yeah. But I'm going to give it to 1-1. So 1-1, you won a sticker. And so email me, Pete@murdermetalmayhem.com. Put I want a sticker in the subject line with your snail mail, and I'll send you one right away. But
So
they're
real,
3-inch stickers. So what were you going to say, buddy?
oh yeah, Cubs asked several times, and so I just haven't found a time. They said, who was the guy? And then it was like, is it Devil's Advocates that was the guy who suggested that, came up with a theory called the game theory and the Luigi Mangione thing. And yes, that was me. I had a long form video called the game theory about Luigi Mangione, that it could have possibly been committed by a group of gamers that were playing games with law enforcement and had a bunch of clues that they left behind, gaming clues. That was me that did the game theory. So they were asking several times if I was the one that did that, and I was. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's cool. Interesting stuff there. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We'll cut this, off here. I know always a lot for 90 minutes, but we really didn't know what we were going to get with this one. And like you said, unfortunately, the docuseries was kind of lame, and so really didn't give us a whole bunch of cool stuff to talk about. But
yeah, I feel bad for dragging. I thought it was going to be a brilliant idea, but of course, I had no idea that the documentary was going to blow.
I thought overall, the live was great with a lot of cool info. It just the part
it was a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Which didn't make everybody happy. It didn't make everybody happy, but it was a trip down memory lane, and I kind of enjoyed that.
Any old schoolers watching this, if you haven't seen the video, it's on YouTube called Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Search for that, and you'll thank me later. It's from like the 80s, and it's a video camera style video of a bunch of dudes parked, out in the parking lot before a metal show. And gets Judas Priest and Dokken, and they're all out there partying, and there's some people hammered. I mean, it's pretty funny, but talk about throwing back to the day. It's a really good video. It's only like 20 minutes long, but Heavy Metal Parking Lot. We actually did a podcast on it. We liked it so much. So, all right, guys. Well, Lee, I'll see you next time, buddy, and everybody else. Have a good night.
Thanks for having me on again.
Of course.
Yeah, I've heard it all before. It's just the outro and I'm out of here. If you did, you wouldn't be loving this sick, weird groove. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment to help us get out to more. Smash that like and subscribe before you go. You must be some high achiever to watch this whole thing. Copyright 2025 by Horns Hot Productions.